Hi lovelies and welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, hi, hello, my name is Hannah. I'm the owner of PropBudgets, which is a brand that creates fun savings challenges for my fellow cash budgeters. I also occasionally post some cash budgeting content, which is what this video is about. So I just want to start off this video by apologizing to you guys for being gone for so long. Unfortunately, my husband and I were sick pretty much the entire month of May, and we still have some like residual cough, and it's been like 5 weeks already. So I'm just now like trying to slowly transition to filming again and stuff like that, because I kid you not, I could not talk without coughing for a long time, but now I'm feeling a little bit better to film this video. So this video is in a little bit of a different setting, and it is going to be basically just going through how we budget our paycheck, mainly my husband's paycheck, because we only really budget his and anything I make is extra. And I'm also going to be talking about our plan with basically recovering from our emergency fund being pretty much completely depleted. Since my husband is the primary breadwinner of our family and he was like super sick, he wasn't really going to work as much, understandably so. But the reality of it is that our bills and our expenses don't really care if we're sick or not. They will still keep going. So, fortunately, we did have an emergency fund, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But let's go ahead and dive into this spreadsheet. So, I am pretty much, I want to say, maybe like a hybrid cash budgeter. So, I budget with prop money, and I also do my cash budgeting on this Excel spreadsheet. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to zoom you guys in a little bit so that we can see everything a little bit better. So my husband worked 50 hours last week and he made 23.29, and we are going to go ahead and budget that. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to skip over all of these and we're going to go over to savings. Now this is something somewhat of a recent realization for me. Back when we first got married 3 years ago, we were living paycheck to paycheck, and saving for us was a luxury. We had to pay, our bills first, our expenses first, and our pretty important sinking funds like, car maintenance and medical and stuff like that. And if and only if we had anything left over, would we be able to save that money. Now, 3 years later, we are in a much better place where we are able to, in a sense, pay ourselves first through our savings. And when I say savings, this isn't including the sinking funds. As you can see, sinking funds has its own category over here, because to me, even though sinking funds is technically saving, it's meant to be spent at some point or another. To me, at least my definition of savings nowadays in this season of our life is savings that helps with wealth building. So things like saving up for an emergency fund, saving to pay off extra debt, or saving up for a house. I'm not sure if I shared this in my previous videos, but my husband and I are thinking of home ownership within the next 2 to 4 years. So it seems like a really huge feat at this point, but I just want to sit here and trust the process and know that, if we just keep consistent and disciplined to the best of our ability, then we'll get to, where we want to be. Right now, the what we're aiming for is 15% of the income towards savings, and again, savings towards wealth building, not the sinking funds. So I'm going to go over to this total here, and I have my calculator here on the side. So 23.29 times 0.15, that's going to be 349.35. So I'm just going to round up to 350. Now, I do have my savings split up between my savings binder and my emergency fund. So the savings binder is where I have like my savings games, scratch off, stuff like that, just to make savings fun. And also when I release the newest box game, I might create a third category here to make room for that. But right now I like to do $50 towards the savings binder. And then I'm thinking the rest of it will just go straight to emergency fund. So it's going to basically bypass the savings binder and go straight to the emergency fund. And I do have every intention to share with you guys our progress towards our emergency fund. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing cash stuffing videos as long form, but I think maybe in my savings binder videos, I'm not sure if it's going to be like a Sunday savings, a Monday savings, or anything like that yet. I feel like being sick for so long just kind of like threw everything up in the air, and I don't really know what's going on anymore, but we're working on it. But yeah, I do plan on sharing with you guys our progress with that. And before I move on to the other sections, I'm going to talk briefly about what happened to our emergency fund. So we decided on a starter emergency fund of $3,000, which I think we finished saving up for either late last year or early this year. I don't quite remember. And when my husband got sick, we unfortunately had to use that up. Not all of it. So we went from $3,000 to $1,100. And that might not seem too bad for like 3 to 4 weeks of kind of missed work here and there. But we also lost opportunity cost with saving for some of our sinking funds. So what I've done with my sinking funds is I calculated how much I want to save annually and then just divided it by 52 weeks. So unfortunately, we weren't able to save for our sinking funds, and now we're playing catch up. But yeah, that's basically where we're at. So we were starting at $1,100 and then working our way up to 15,000, which, oh my goodness, is like, it sounds insane, but you know what? I think that we can do it if we just, like I said, consistency and discipline. So let's go ahead over to the other categories here. So bills. This is usually something that I don't really talk about in my more recent cash budgeting videos because I just feel like they're the same thing every single month. So I don't cash stuff these. I only cash stuff basically the expenses, the sinking funds, as well as the savings. So let's go over to our bills. So our rent went up kind of recently. So we now pay $16.28, but this is for pet rent, the actual rent, water, sewer, garbage, as well as a garage that we use for storage because we live in a 1 bed, 1 bath apartment and we have, 2 people, 2 humans, and 2 cats. So it's like we need storage outside of what we have now. So rent is getting $376, and these are weekly numbers here. So my husband gets paid weekly. Basically, our rent would be $376 times 4 or something like that. Okay, so car insurance is going to be getting $72. This does include both of our cars. Pet insurance is getting $15 for both our kitties. Electric tends to go up towards the summer for us, so it's going to be $28. This is most likely going to be going up a little bit going into, like I said, the summer months. So internet is getting $23. Renters is getting $8. Phone is getting $36. Gym is going to be getting $21, and this is for both our gym memberships. And union dues is going to be getting $15 because my husband works for a union, so we have to pay dues every month and also every week, but it's automatically taken out of his check. So weekly expenses here, we have $150 for groceries and $20 for household goods. So groceries is basically your food and your perishables, and then household goods for us are your non-perishables and toiletries, so like shampoo, conditioner, toilet paper, paper towels, stuff like that. And gas, oh my gosh, don't even get me started on the gas prices, you guys. My husband drives, I don't know how much in miles, but about an hour there and back, so 2 hours-ish total. And gas has been kicking our butts. The only thing that kind of balances it out is that I kind of barely drive. I only fill up maybe once a month, if that. So it kind of, in a sense, balances itself out. So gas is going to be getting $70. I don't know if this is going to be enough, but we're kind of testing since gas prices recently skyrocketed. So we're still kind of like in the experimental phase, trying to figure out how much is enough and how much isn't. Now, these next 2 numbers are probably going to shock you, but there is a reason behind it. So wifey and hubby, these are our personal spending. We're getting $75 each. Now, before anybody starts to go like, oh my gosh, like your allowance is higher than your gas, let me explain. So we used to have an eating out fund, and eating out for us for basically for as long as I can remember has been an issue. I will say it's mainly my fault, and I'm going to take accountability for that because I'm the type of person where, you can spend your money on materialistic things and stuff like that. But for me, what I value the most is convenience. With everything going on, being a small business owner and, having to take care of the household, I just juggle so many things. And I'm sure that lots of you can probably relate. And to me, like convenience is just like the one thing that I really appreciate. So we've been overspending on eating out a lot. So what we decided to do, and this is really recent, as in this is the first paycheck that we are trying this new thing out, is we're going to get rid of eating out. And what we did was we took a portion of the eating out fund, which used to get $100 every single week. We're taking $50 and then we're splitting it between the 2 of us. So $25 each for that. And then the remainder of the 75 is going to come from how many hours my husband works in a week. So for example, for this paycheck, he worked 50 hours a week. So we have the 25 plus 50, which will give us 75. And this is the maximum we can get because the maximum amount of hours, at least like that my husband is willing to work, is 50 hours a week. So this is what we're going to be getting. And say if he works 20 hours a week, we'll get the 20 plus the 25, which is 45. Now we don't have any hobby sinking funds or anything like that. So this will cover any personal subscriptions that we want or hobbies or anything that we want to buy for ourselves, like wish list items. So in a sense, I think this is kind of reasonable, at least for our personal finances. So we're going to try this out and hopefully it's going to work because I think it's a lot harder to spend something if you know that it's coming out of your personal money rather than just like this arbitrary eating out fund. So we'll try this out and hopefully it works. So for kitties, we have 2 cats, Biscuit and Ace. They are getting $20. I think I might stop stuffing this because they're about to reach their maximum. I think the maximum amount that I'm happy with for them is $100 and I think they're at like 80. So we'll see if they need any supplies, but I just did buy some stuff for them recently. So let's go over to the high priority fund. So the first thing that we have is subscriptions, and this covers our annual subscriptions and our monthly subscription. So we have $12 for that. The next thing that we have here is car registration for both our cars, which is getting $5. The next thing is school weeks. So this is actually, it normally doesn't get this much, but we are putting aside $326. And I know that number is so random, but it'll all zero out in the end, I promise. School week, if you guys are new here, my husband is an electrical apprentice with a union. And 5 weeks out of the entire year, he has to go to school instead of work. And those 5 weeks are unpaid. So we do save up for those in advance because, like I said earlier, bills don't care what's happening in your life. They're going to keep, going. So we save up money for that. And yeah, so we're adding 326. We do have to play catch up with this because, we were sick last month. So the next thing that we have here is car maintenance, and I'm happy with where it's at right now. So I decided that if something is like, in a sense, fully funded, at least temporarily, I'll just do a green highlight so that I know not to put any more money into that. We currently have a little over $1,000 in car maintenance. My husband does need to take his car in, I think, in the next month or so. So I'm expecting to start funding this again. Sick days is 20 for just, when my husband calls in and stuff like that. Medical is going to be getting 200. So we are also playing catch up with medical. My husband's work has this benefit where the employer puts in money into this fund. It's called an SBA. I don't know if it's something that's common among other jobs or occupations and stuff like that, but it is called an SBA. And the way it works is that whenever we have anything that we pay for out of pocket, we just submit claims to the SBA and they will reimburse us back 100%. They have been taking their sweet time more recently. We submitted our claims, I think, over a month ago, and they still haven't gotten back to us. But, it is what it is. So we're trying to put a little bit more money in there. Work fund is for when my husband needs to buy like gear, tools, stuff like that for work. Now moving down to date night, which is actually kind of related to the eating out fund. So like I mentioned earlier, we used to get $100 for eating out. So we took the 50 and put it towards our allowances. And the other 50 is actually going to go towards date night. And I have a really fun thing that I want to do for date night, which is a date night jar. If you guys have not heard of it, it's basically just, a jar, and then you have colored paper that can symbolize different categories. Like for example, a cozy night in or a little adventure. And then on that piece of paper, we'll have a date idea. And I thought that it would be a pretty neat thing to mix things up so that we're not always just eating out. I've been brainstorming some date ideas, like say a gym date plus matcha, or, we could go to a museum or something like that. And I do plan on putting a little category in there that's kind of more expensive dates for more special occasions. So for example, for our wedding anniversary, we can probably draw something from the more expensive special dates, and these dates will typically cost over $100. So when I have that done, I actually have the card stock coming in today, so I can start working on it today, and maybe I'll show you guys in a future video what that looks like. I just thought it was pretty neat. So for vacation, we are also playing catch up with this. So we are doing $50 for vacation. We are planning to go to the Oregon coast in September for my husband's birthday. And we have pretty much everything paid for in terms of like the accommodations, the food, the gas, and shopping that we plan on doing. The thing that I'm saving up for is his time off, because he does plan on taking off the entire week off. So we'll have to save up for that to cover the bills, obviously. Home improvement is just, you know, for if we want to do like planters in the spring, or we want to buy just things for the apartment that is not really necessary, but, you know, kind of feels nice and makes things homier. So for wifey's birthday, this is going to get $2. I know it's so random, but it is what it is. So the way that we do it for our birthdays is that we just get $100 for our birthday, and we can decide what we want to do with it. Like we can add it to our allowance, or we can go out to lunch or something like that. So my husband is going to get 0, and that's because we've already fully funded his thing. So I should probably highlight this. I swear I'm not a bad wife. I just, you know, he's already fully funded and mine's not. So we'll go with that. Gifts is mainly for gifts for other people. So this will include like people's birthdays, Christmas, stuff like that. So that's going to be getting $10. And then Christmas is mainly like for us. So we have kind of like our gifts separated from other people. So Christmas will just be for us, which is going to be $10. And we pretty much filled out most of this. We're just going to go down to debt. And this is the section that I really hate the most, honestly. And I'm sure that you can probably relate. So for car payments, we are putting away $174. And then for student loans, we are putting away $86. And now that we have everything filled out, this should be 0 up here, which it is, which means we have assigned every dollar a job, which I'm really happy about. And yeah, so this is basically how I budget our paycheck every single week. As an aside, I mentioned earlier that this is just my husband's paycheck. We do try our best to live only on my husband's paycheck because, you know, you never know. Like, for example, when we got sick, you know, like things just kind of got tossed into all sorts of crazy. So my income is definitely just an extra thing for us. And we do try to live on just 40 hours. My husband, I think theoretically can work up to 60 hours or 58 hours for his job. But we budget everything on 40 hours because I'm just so scared of having like a financial disaster that I just want to make sure that we are living within our means. So as of right now, my income, 20% of it will go towards the wealth building. So I get paid monthly, so you'll probably never see it on here when I budget stuff because that typically just happens off camera. But you will probably see it for when I share with you guys our progress with the emergency fund. But yeah, so that is going to be it for this video. I don't know how long this video was. I know that it's a little bit of a different scenery compared to like the top-down table cash stuffing, but this is generally how I budget our paycheck, and I just want to, you know, be authentic and stuff like that. So if you guys have any questions about really anything about this video, how we budget, why we did what we did, please let me know down in the comments below. And thank you guys so much for watching. And again, I'm really sorry I was gone for so long. I did miss filming a lot. So yeah, I hope to see you guys in my next video. Happy budgeting. Bye.